Official White House phone logs from the day Donald Trump supporters stormed the Capitol Hill show a 7-hour gap in the president's communication.
Now, the committee investigating the Capitol insurrection is looking into whether they have a full accounting of the president's communications from that day. Washington Post political reporter Amber Phillips joins us now. Amber, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Matt. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for your time. Why is it important that official White House documents and logs be accounted for? What purpose does that serve the public knowing about that information?
Yeah, well, let's step back to talk about every single administration. And there's a law that's been in place since the Nixon era called the Presidential Record Act, requiring presidents to preserve everything they do in their official capacity. And historians I talk to say it's important because it allows the public to be able to tell the story of a presidency rather than the president himself. For example, the Nixon White House first framed Watergate as this political attack against Nixon rather than what it truly was, for example. And so that's one big reason to have the president adhere to keeping track of all these White House call logs, phone records, documents that they pass and have and come across, who they meet with. I mean, everything they do. The reason regarding Trump that we're talking about is because the January 6th committee has said they want to know every single thing that President Trump did leading up to January 6th and especially on that day. They went to court to try to get documents about what he did. They won that case. And then as soon as they get these call logs, we find, like you just said, basically the entire day is missing.
7.5 hours, in fact, of the entire day missing, thinking that possibly he used other people's phones or iPhones to do that. And the Presidential Records Act has been violated in the past by other presidents, but President Trump seems to be the most egregious of acts that presidents have violated, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Micah. The most egregious since the law has been passed in nearly 50 years. Now, the reason, as I understand it, that presidents tend to violate this act is because there's no one hovering over them and forcing it. And so, for example, past presidents may use a personal cell phone to do official business. Well,
I think President Obama did something about that, didn't he?
I'm sorry?
I think President Obama may have done that, right?
Exactly. Yes. President Obama came up as doing that. That's exactly right. And so these are examples that happen all the time. We'll never know what we don't know. But what we do know with regard to President Trump is that he had a habit of ripping up documents, even after lawyers told him, you should preserve these. And we know that staff would run in and tape them up together. We know that when he left the White House, he took 15 boxes of official documents with him, including some clearly marked classified. This was so egregious that the National Archives, which is the agency that is supposed to collect all this stuff for future generations, asked the Justice Department to investigate what happened. And then finally, we don't know whether this is tied to some violation of the Presidential Records Act, as Trump seemed to have shown a pattern of doing, but we know that these call logs on arguably one of the most consequential days, certainly the most shocking days of his presidency, are just gone. We don't know, according to official records, who the president talked to as the Capitol attack was unfolding, and as Republicans in particular were criticizing him for not acting soon enough or forcefully enough to stop the attack.
Amber, our lawmakers may be talking about the need for an oversight office, somebody to ensure that the White House keeps the documents they're supposed to and turns them over?
Yes, that is something that comes up almost every Congress. It rarely gets attention, but suddenly here we are talking about it. There is a bill being drafted in the Senate. There will probably be congressional hearings on this. I don't see, if Republicans can take control of Congress next year, I don't see this being a major issue for them because politically it's all tied back to Trump, and that's just not something they want to dig up. They've shown little to no interest in investigating what happened in January 6th.
What kind of punishment could the president face?
None. As I understand it, there's very little to one, make him adhere to this law and then to punish him for it. Now, that being said, as I talked about, the National Archives has asked the Justice Department to investigate this, but the Justice Department has been asked to investigate any number of issues related to President Trump and January 6th, and they've shown no outward indication that they are, likely because they're nervous about the precedent it could set of a current administration investigating a previous administration.
Washington Post political reporter Amber Phillips, thank you so much. Be safe, be well.
Thank you.